Hey guys, this is Steve Burton at New Performance Automotive. We're in Rural Retreat, Virginia, down in the southwestern part of Virginia. First and foremost, I'd like to give a big shout out to Engine Builder Magazine for letting us host this episode of Engine Builder Takeover. We are a full service machine shop, so we do get to see a little bit of everything. We primarily focus on light duty diesel engines. The Cummins engine is an engine we take and do a lot of performance work too, so that's kind of our bread and butter. Being a full service machine shop, I do get the opportunity to do a lot of machine work for other shops and get to interact with other people in the sport, which is kind of cool. I know in the sport of pulling, which is mainly what we're in, we do some drag race stuff, but in the sport of pulling, most of the guys in the pulling world are just like a big family, so we see them on a daily, or not a daily basis, we see them on a pretty much a weekly basis, all different parts of the country. So you kind of get to know everybody, seeing everybody like that. Drag racers, I'm sure, are just as close. I've just had the opportunity to spend more time with the pulling crowd because of the history of where we came from. So really, out of high school, a little bit of my history out of high school was just kind of always a motorhead. Really were no diesel pickup or anything back then. So in around the early 90s, I kind of got into the sport of antique tractor pulling. So the cool thing about antique tractor pulling was it was a pretty cheap sport to get into, very competitive. The neat thing about antique tractor pulling is you can't order a performance part for whatever antique tractor you're working on. So you had to get innovative and take parts from a small block Chevy, big block Chevy. You had to make it fit in an antique tractor. So that kind of, you just had to get real innovative, and that's really helped out. We have aluminum parts. We manufacture right here in house. We make deck plates for the Cummins Motors. A lot of these smaller aluminum parts. Most of them are for Cummins pulling trucks. A lot of them are for drag trucks. We do custom lightweight cranks for the Cummins drag race trucks, and that we feel like we take about 30 pounds off of those, and we feel like that's a big help in 0 or in 60-foot times. So what we have here is we have some Cummins motors that are finished and ready to go. Just highlight a few of them real quick. This is a 2.6 smoothbore engine, and it is an electronic motor. We haven't done a lot with the electronic motors yet. There's a lot of guys out there running them, very successful. This is kind of a start for us. Most of our engines are mechanical. We'll get into that a little later. This engine here is going to be what they call a work stock motor. So in the pulling world, most of you guys know what that is. Work stock motor is sometimes able to make more power than a 2.6 smoothbore motor because of turbo limitations. And then last motor here is, again, it's a basic 6.7 Cummins. It's got some good rods in it, aftermarket cam, a little bit of head work, bigger push rods, different valve springs. This particular customer is going to be a drag race customer, and he's wanting to make around 1,300 to 1,500 horsepower with this, which is very common in these engines. It's not uncommon at all for these things to have over 1,000 horsepower. It's a long ways from where we started. So back when we kind of first started this, back in the early 90s, I was telling you that we antique tractor pull. I remember going to some of the truck pulls, and we eventually turned our antique tractors. We got into something a little more loud, a little faster. Unfortunately, a little more expensive. So I remember going down to Eastern Virginia. I lived near Fredericksburg, Virginia at the time. Going down to Eastern Virginia, Miller's Tavern, Temple Prison, Dragon Motorsports, and watching pulls, taking antique tractors down there, and we built small block pulling trucks, and we got into truck pulling. And this was early 90s. VE Dodges were around. These guys used to show up. I remember there was only a couple of them at the time. These guys would show up, and they would put them in a small block class, and these guys had 300, 350 horsepower. They kind of, they were cool looking. They made smoke, which everybody's, always a big fan of that. But 600 horsepower small block Chevy would walk all over it. So a few years later, I specifically remember going to truck pulled in Farmville, Virginia, seeing a Dodge truck with a P-pump on it run for the first time. I don't have to tell you guys what that done to the industry for truck pulling, diesel truck pulling. That added, it's like pouring gas on the fire. All of a sudden, these guys had, close to 1,000 horsepower. They started making specific classes for diesel pickups, and it's kind of bloomed from there. So I kind of got my start in pulling, and it kind of transitioned from a small block gas motor into the diesel engines. So I had a shop at the time, and the diesel performance was just kind of getting started. Nothing was really going crazy then, and I did run that shop until 2005. And then in 2005, we moved down to southwestern part of Virginia here, which is kind of originally where I'm from. And I had the opportunity in transition to work for a Chrysler dealership. I worked there for almost 2 years. It was kind of cool. It was a really cool time for Chrysler. Daimler Chrysler. Daimler owned Chrysler at the time, and we had a lot of Mercedes technology coming in. A lot of things that was really cool going on with Chrysler. I felt like Chrysler was kind of slipping away, and then when Daimler come in and took them over, just solely my opinion, I feel like they really made a big rebound. And of course, the Cummins engine really helped Chrysler, I feel like, make a rebound. So the cool thing about working for Chrysler, what I did, is I was able to go to some of the Cummins schools. I remember when the 6.7 Cummins first come out, I was one of the guys that got chose to go to the high pressure common rail injection class, and I kind of got to brush up on a lot of the cutting edge technology that I had kind of slipped away from, and just kind of seen what the future held with these things, with these new common rail engines. So after that, we moved down here, and eventually, after kind of working for yourself, it's hard to work for somebody else. So I found the shop that we're in currently, and we started up doing basic repair and maintenance on light duty diesel engines. And we had some friends. We were still truck and tractor pulling, and I had a buddy that had a what they call a 2.6 diesel truck, meaning 2.6 inducer size, and at that time it was considered a 2.6 Mac groove truck. So we worked on that all through the week, and on the weekends we'd go pulling. Sometimes we'd pull on Friday night, pop the head gasket, come back in, be ready to go for Saturday. So my machine, all my machines I have, and the ability to do what we have came from solely needing it done on midnight or on Saturday or Sunday when all the guys that I used to source everything out to, they were at home in bed and with their families, and I didn't blame them, So eventually we started picking up some machinery to do this stuff ourselves, and about that time, the pulling was going pretty good, but we were kind of limited. Being at this geographical location here, we were kind of limited on truck pulls. So these trucks started showing up at the drag strip. Diesel drag trucks started becoming a big thing. The power was getting kind of crazy. We started out with 1,000 horse, and most of these were common rail trucks, which is the type of injection system they have. we started out around 1,000 horse. You know, it seemed like the next year we'd have 1,200. I think our best numbers are 2,300 at the back wheels, which is about 2,800 crankshaft horsepower. And I know there's guys that's making over 3,000 now. We've not, you know, chased that goal, and kudos to them. That's fantastic that anybody can achieve that goal, which is fantastic for us and fantastic for our industry. Saying earlier, and we those trucks became an open driveline truck. So, which means that, you know, you could run any differential or drop box, which ultimately means a lot of cost was being put into these trucks, and it was kind of limiting the amount of competitors. So I was focused more on drag racing trucks because I didn't have too many guys that could afford a $100,000 pull. We took a 2.6 map groove engine, which made about 1,550 horsepower, 16 on some of them, and we had to transition into a limited air class. So that made a tremendous challenge for us. We thought we could just put a turbo on the engine that we had, and it worked, but we were way down in numbers, not even close to where we needed to be. So we started working with this limited air situation, and, you know, I guess the NASCAR guys had it figured out, you know, several years ago with the restrictor plates. So we started kind of going back and doing some things with the limited air, and we found out that we do have a dyno. We found out by wiring engines out of the dyno, we found out that what you think works doesn't, and, you know, what should work don't, and what don't supposed to work sometimes does. So we eventually kind of figured the limited air game out, and that's kind of our thing right now, doing the limited air, the 2.6 smoothbore engines. We've been pretty successful. I've had some really good guys running these engines. We'll get into that a little bit later. I do have an engine I do want to spotlight. So some of the products we use, of course, you know, ARP, total seal rings. A lot of the stuff we use is Molly. I want to give a shout out to the SBI guys. Practically every Cummins engine that I do has SBI exhaust seats, intake seats, valves, valve seals. Fantastic company to deal with. And heck, man, just their catalog is probably the coolest thing in the world. I mean, they got basically every engine covered in here, and this thing is like an encyclopedia. Even, you know, you can look it up. It's all by manufacturers, cubic inches. It's like one of the best catalogs to have. There's a lot of specs in here that are just fantastic to be able to look at this real quick and use. So the SBI guys have been great. They do have a lot of performance valve springs and performance valves for these light duty diesel engines now. So need to check these guys out. They have a series of race valves for the Duramax and the Cummins, and they also have their own valve springs for the Cummins, which is great. We're not limited to just a couple of manufacturers. Okay, we'll go through the shop here a little bit, give you a little bit of a tour. This is a working machine shop, so this is where all the dirty work gets done. It don't have a checkerboard, a checkered flag floor, but we got the Cummins blocks lined up, and as I said earlier, this is kind of our bread and butter, B-series Cummins. And the cool thing about being a full service machine shop is you get to see a little bit of everything. You know, we got circle track motors. We got, you know, little bitty 3-cylinder Kubotas. You know, we got Perkins diesels, 6-liter Fords, just about any kind of light duty diesel engines that you can think of. And we, you know, I've had it's kind of like, you know, Forrest Gump said, it's like a box of chocolates. You never know what's going to come through the door. And we had a V12 flathead Mercury motor in here the other day, which is something you don't see every day. And we have I've got a 57 Ford Y block, so it's really cool that you get to cover a lot of things other than just the same thing. So it kind of keeps you from getting bored, I guess. So we have of course the boring machine. We got a soldering hone that we use on all of our engines. We do have the ability to line bore. Use this machine mainly for putting Cummins cam bearings in. Those engines only come with 1 or 2 cam bearings. We put all 7 of them in, and I can put billet main caps on, and we use the line bore for that, and then put everything. And then air. Most of my performance work is for pulling related vehicles. Cool thing, we get 90% of what we do. Like I said, is the one we do. I do have a customer that kind of keeps me. Show you here. Even a 466 International, I get the opportunity to actually do a little bit of pulling tractor motor work too. So, and we have dynoed pulling tractors on our dyno. I have it fixed to where we can back tractor in, hook it up to the dyno, and dyno it as well as I can any engine. I do have a customer that runs big block Ford pulling motor, so that kind of keeps us brushed up on doing machine work and stuff on the high performance big block Ford stuff. Our round track engines, most of them are, of course, small block Chevy. We do have a dirt track right across the interstate from where we're at. Really good competitive dirt track that a lot of people come from all over. And then we're not too far from Charlotte, which is NASCAR country. So we get a lot of really good dirt cars over here. And as per the rules for the dirt track, it's pretty much they're all small block Chevys. So that's what you have to run there. And there's a lot of classes that limit you, and that's kind of fun too. Trying to work within the rules and get the most horsepower out of the rules that you do have to work with. But this is our dyno room. Kind of excuse the mess. It's kind of a work in progress, but it's a land and sea dyno. Biggest thing I've had on here so far has been 2,100 horsepower. It's rated for 2,000 horse, 4,000 torque. I think a quick sweep we can probably handle 3,400 horsepower on like a 6-second sweep. So haven't had anything that big yet, but I'd love to see it. Anybody that's got something like that wants to bring it down, we'll darn sure run it for them. We do have CNC, some CNC mills. I have a guy that works full time on CAD design and doing custom parts. We've got a lot of parts that we have already been manufactured over the years. I have some new stuff coming. I got a couple new things that I think everybody's going to really like, and it will appeal to street guys, drag race guys, and pulling guys. So that's to be released in a couple weeks. I look forward to that. Just keep an eye on my Facebook page for that, and I'll show you about the releases that we got coming. I got a couple things that I think everybody's going to like. It's going to be really cool. This is our dual pump cover that we do manufacture in house. It allows you to run twin CP3 pumps and let them be gear driven. This one allows you to run coolant in the block, and this is an early style. This is one of our first styles. We got a new one of these coming that's got just a little bit of. It basically looks the same. We got a little bit different cover on it with some 3D machine work that kind of makes everything look kind of cool. So that'll be coming out in a month or so probably as well. So anybody needs interested in any of this stuff, you can just shoot me a line on or whatever on that. So okay, I guess we'll. I want to go. My shop is kind of unique. We have a downstairs, which is where all my machine work, dyno, and the CNC machines are. And we do have a upstairs. This building's kind of built like a bridge. We do most of our service work, engine swaps and stuff like that. We do that upstairs. So we're going to go up there, and I want to talk a little bit about some of the stuff I want to highlight, and let's do that. Just a quick, we got, this is my CBN surfacer, CBN and PCD for aluminum. This is the machine you need to get the surface required for these new MLS gaskets for all the new cars, and then we switch over to a PCD cutter for the aluminum heads, and those as you guys know, those heads have to be really smooth for the MLS gaskets to work on those. So we do have that. And then one of my newest prized possessions, we picked this up. I actually bought this machine brand new a couple years ago. It's a Robbins SG8. This thing has the capability of doing valve jumps on the heads that we do, and I've checked the concentricity on this thing, and it's pretty amazing. It's 0 to like 0.3 concentricity of the valve, which is amazing. You can do the valve jobs on this. We got all the 3D cutters and everything, 3-angle cutters, I'm sorry, and we vacuum check them, and it just seems like they turn out almost perfect. You never hardly have to lap a valve. Fantastic machine. It's been a blessing to be able to get that. We're going to go upstairs and check things out. These are a couple of bills that I do want to highlight. This is a good friend of mine, Mike Peabody, out of Nova, Ohio. This is a Pro Street diesel truck. He's down for the weekend. We got a few things we want to try on to try to tweak a little bit more out. We got some ideas up our sleeve that we hope will work. One thing I want to mention is, I said Mike was from Nova, Ohio. He gets to compete pretty much through the pulling season in Ohio. You can pull, excuse me, you can pull almost nightly in Ohio through the pulling season. If you think you've got a good pulling truck, I can say this because I'm from Virginia, but if you think you've got a good pulling truck, take it to Ohio. Stay for a couple weeks, come back. You'll know if you got a good pulling truck. These guys pull against the absolute best pulling trucks in the country. It's been proven over and over again. These guys go to several different states. They go to the Shad Diesel Extravaganza, Diesels in Dark Corners. We got guys from Wisconsin, a good group of trucks in Wisconsin, good group of trucks in Georgia. We all get together, or Mike gets together. I just get to go and watch and have a good time. So, some of the best in the country, and if you can pull with those guys and hold your own, you got a pretty good setup. Now this is another customer of mine. I do have a small part in the engine on this thing. He does a lot of the work himself. I'm proud to be able to do some of the machine work and set up for him. His truck is a 6,400 pound big block Ford. There's different class. They call this class a few different things across the country. It's not exactly the same name for wherever you go. But this is big block Ford. It's got C heads on it. Probably never had it on the dyno. It probably turns a few too many RPM to put on the dyno. But this truck pulls. He competes in Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, North Carolina, Virginia, Tennessee, all over the country. And he did finish second in a championship in the group in North Carolina this year. Very tough truck in its class, very, very good runner. Just kind of proud to be a part of that. Then this engine in this truck right here was the engine builder diesel of the week, and this truck is This truck is a tough competitor wherever it goes. I want to highlight the engine here just a little bit, but one of the things that make this truck as competitive as what it is the chassis on it and the setup, and of course, I guess the guy behind the wheel, which is Mike Peabody.
Hi, I'm Mike Peabody. I'm from Nova, Ohio, and we do our own chassis work. We work on everything other than the engine in this truck. We built this truck from the bottom up, chassis, work on all the differential stuff ourselves. We run a Valair triple disc clutch in it, MB 4500 Pro Fab, and a 241 DHD transfer case. 1 ton drive line, Dana 80 in the back, Dana 60 in the front. Rear end's been narrowed almost 14 inches. Like I said, I do all the chassis work. I have other trucks that we've got chassis that we've done on. Chassis work really well. This truck used to be a regular cab 8-foot bed truck. We stretched it last winter to 158-inch wheelbase. Definitely made a difference. We've been pulling the Pro Street Class 2.6 diesel class for 3 years now. This will be our 4th year going into it. And you know, we were pretty competitive the first 2 years, top 5 trucks. This last year, 2023, we have 17 wins under our belts, 8 seconds, a handful of thirds, a couple fourths, and a couple fifth places. So we've done real well this year. It's definitely been a fun year. Steve Burton is a huge help. The engine he built for me is top notch. So I'll let him go into that.
Okay, thanks, Mike. I just like to highlight this build because this is one that that did make the diesel of the week. This is what I talked about earlier, 2.6 smoothbore truck. Our drag race engines, they have big air, big fuel. It's not. I ain't saying it's not hard to make power with those things, but you can make a lot of power with big air and big fuel. The main thing you're doing on a big 2,000 plus horsepower engine for a drag race truck is you're trying to contain it. You're trying to make it live. You're just trying to hold all that power in. Make it live a season, 2 seasons, whatever you can get it on. They're very hard. That kind of horsepower is very hard on these engines. When these things first started, like I said, we lost 250 horsepower over the old Map Groove trucks. And it was just really aggravating to try to get power out of these things because we just threw a turbo on what we had, and let me tell you guys, that didn't work. We were down in the 700s on horsepower at one time, and it just seemed like we just kept digging away at it. Camshaft, piston design, injector design, head flow has to be perfect on these things to make power. This has been probably, as an engine builder, one of my biggest challenges is to get power out of this particular engine or this particular style of engine, and that's determined by the size of the turbo that's in it. We do have one of the very few mechanical trucks that run out there. I would say the majority of them are electronic. There is quite a few Duramaxes. There's some V8 Fords, even the new 6.7 V8 Ford. There's some of those. They're very competitive. But we do have probably, there's a few out there, but we have one of the very few mechanical trucks that does really well. I think a couple years ago at Shine, I think we were the only mechanical truck that actually made the finals on both days, if I remember correctly. So we felt like that was a huge feat. And then the next year we come back and we backed it up with a win in one of the qualifying sessions, and then actually ultimately ended up third overall, which was out of 40 plus trucks, and not just 40 regular trucks, 40 of the best trucks there is. And then we went down to Diesel's Dark Corners. Mike pulled out second place on Friday night, and unfortunately it rained it out on Saturday, so that's just the way it is. We'll get to hit it next year. But this build is basically a 12 valve block. This is a 5.9 liter engine. We do use a 24 valve head. We have a piston design, a valve design, and we have certain angles on the valves that match the head flow that seem to really work for us. I remember getting to the point of where we're at here. We literally wore one of these things out on the dyno to the point of having to put rings and bearings in it when we were done, and that's not a joke. That's the truth. I remember coming in one Saturday morning, running the dyno, and I think we changed 8 camshafts in one day. And each time we would gain or lose 10 horsepower, sometimes 5 horsepower. On this limited air, if you gain 5 horsepower or something gives you 5 more horsepower, you take it. Very small gains at this point to be had on these. A big part of this build is we use a Northeast diesel, which is Kevin Glover, one of the greatest P-pump guys that you can ask for. He has put together a masterpiece of a pump that really works with this combination. It's the best I've ever seen. We've run a bunch of them. This just seems to be near perfect. The combo that we have. Weston at Infinite Performance, he does air injectors, and I guess I let the cat out of the bag the other day and by saying the size. And these are 6x23s. There's other things that I won't release on these things because it took us so long to figure out how to get the power out of them. And then we have found that Ryan Salaban out of Michigan, Apex Turbo. We're running one of his smoothbore turbos, and so far to date, we have made more horsepower with that Apex Turbo than with anything that we've tried. Now we're going to be doing a bunch of dynoing in the next few weeks before pulling season starts, and we're going to try a bunch of different things. We got some tricks up our sleeve on some head design that we're hoping we can pull out another. 40 horsepower would be fantastic. I'd love to pull another 40 horsepower out of this, but big challenge. This is a low tech engine with very high tech thinking in it, and the way I can explain that is 2,000 horse Cummins is you build it to take the pressure and the abuse, and that's what you're aiming for. You're aiming for that engine to hold that power. This right here, we don't make enough power to blow these things apart like some of those big motors do. These things do make an incredible amount of torque. They run lower in the RPM range, so they do make an incredible amount of torque. So you got to gear them to keep them out of that. They'll make enough torque to hurt themselves. So we do run billet rods in it. The high tech part of this is just thinking and the time we've spent testing. This thing has proven to be a big mind game trying to get it to this point. I think we got a lot of stuff figured out. Mike's already went to in 2023. He's went to Shipshewana, the Midwest Winter Nationals, and pulled out a second place victory there. We're going to take this thing down. We're going to put it on the dyno. I got, like I said, I got some head games that we want to try with it. Again, just about everything in this head, we use SBI valve seats, valve springs. We do use the SBI Econel valves in them, and I use that in practically all of my performance motors. So I think I've got everything covered pretty good.